Major trends in high voltage. As with many things, there is a trend towards miniaturization, but making things smaller without losing performance. And in some ways, this is a dichotomy of physics. As you go smaller, it's harder and harder to maintain the same performance that you would get from something larger. If you think of a TV, original TV screens with a cathode ray tube, they used a high voltage power supply, and they were huge and they were heavy. Now we have thin film OLED screens on our TVs, a fraction of the price, a fraction of the weight, a fraction of the depth, and they actually use a different technology. So what we find is that as technology increases, the demands and the requirements of high voltage power supplies change, but the requirement for smaller size and increased performance is always there. High voltage power supplies are surprisingly important. They are, in some ways, you can call them mission critical. So in a lot of lab equipment, if you don't have a high voltage power supply that functions reliably, accurately, and repeatably, you don't have any substance or basis for measurement overall. The classic example of this is that a scanning electron microscope, its sole function in life is to be able to look at very, very small samples in an extremely accurate way. But what most people don't recognize is the fact that the power supply, the performance of the power supply directly affects the resolution of the scanning electron microscope, so that if your power supply is bad, you can't actually resolve and see the particles that you're trying to observe. Designing your own high voltage power supply requires a lot of expertise, time, investment, and money to be able to do so, and to be able to create a high voltage power supply that is repeatable and accurate in the mass market. What are the most important things to look for from a high voltage vendor? You can summarize this into a few very simple but powerful words. The first one is the vendor should be a partner. They should also be transparent, and they should be a trusted advisor. If you don't have all of those three, then you may end up getting the power supply you want, but you may not know how you've got there, which leaves a fundamental issue and a problem of what happens if you want to innovate and change. So we've introduced a new design philosophy called D3C. And what D3C does, it is a digital architecture within the high voltage power supply. And what that does is it actually allows the power supply to have improved performance, reduced number of components, as well as increased reliability and smaller size.